Hey everybody, I'm Diana Steen and I'm the program director. I want to welcome y'all here today. Our food is running just a little late. We have a volunteer bringing up the rear with some yummy food. So while we're waiting for that, let's just go ahead and get started with our program part. So I wanted to say congratulations to our volunteer spotlight, Greta Grothenbucker. She actually is a volunteer from Gonzales County. Oh, and she, of Lavaca County, I'm sorry. She is a school teacher and is in class today, so she wasn't able to come and celebrate, but we want to recognize her for all her hard work that she does. She is an advocate for a teenage girl. Everybody loves us when we're teenagers, and so she does an awesome job. And we just wanted to recognize her for that. We also want to say happy birthday to Bob Vincent, yay! Diane Mertz, Sasha Bird, and Darla Sanders. So I hope I didn't leave anybody out. Please go ahead, be brave. And I also want to say happy anniversary to Kim Parsley, who's been a volunteer for 3 years, Heather Linville, who also has been a volunteer for 3 years, and Beth Canine, who's been a volunteer for 8 years. They're all amazing. So, okay, the next one, if we could have Miss Linda Owens come up and speak just a moment about her pet project we are all so very proud of. Come on over so you'll be on the screen.
Oh, you can tell me I was being filmed too. So.
Yes.
Hi everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Linda Owens. Okay. I facilitate the peer-to-peer group. Can you hear me? Do you want me to look more at you? Okay. Okay. So what peer-to-peer is, it's a group of volunteers get together. We discuss almost anything at this point, okay? If you need help with some of the aspects of doing your volunteering, okay? That's what we're there for, to help you. We encourage you to come and discuss your cases with us, okay? No names, just cases, okay? Sometimes something you say may spark an idea for somebody else, okay? So we like to share, you know, what common problems we all have so that we can get them corrected, help you along your way so that you can become successful volunteers as well. And if we still have time, then we just talk about anything. We might even talk about you. Okay. Oh, thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Our next peer-to-peer is going to be on
that's right.
Thursday, March the 21st from 5:30 to 6:30, and we meet over at the crossing right across the street. So y'all come. It's a great time. And like she said, it's a wonderful time to brainstorm together with other volunteers who are doing the same thing that you're doing. I only go and sit in the corner just so I can open the door and close the door and bring a snack. That's all I go for. But it is all about y'all. So please feel free to come anytime. It's a great. Yes, we did have special guests. We had Nick Perez from the board came, and Lynn Duenas, who is our new executive director. And she is out sick today with the flu, so I know she is missing seeing everybody here, but we are really appreciative that she didn't bring that to share with us. So, community engagement. Where is Miss Charlene?
Hello, thank you all for coming. Hopefully the right leadership. Okay, so community engagement events that we have coming up would be El Paso Taco and Tequila Night. Give Back Night will be on March 19th. They've always been on Tuesdays, so hopefully y'all can join us. We had a good time last month. So we do need more to show up, so please don't plan to eat out that day and just come hang out with us. You already said peer-to-peer, and we do have Mother's Day brunch coming up. The tickets are for sale. How many tickets do we have left? Do we know? All of them. Okay, and the prices for the tickets are $75. And so hopefully, if you know someone who wants to join us or attend the event, it's very nice. Please join us or let Kelsey or one of the board members know. We also have a proclamation signing coming up for Child Abuse Prevention Month, which is April. And it kicks off on April the 1st. All of these locations on here are the county commissioners' courts and the courthouse, and that we'll be attending with Belong, SJRC, and other partnering agencies that are in the child prevention advocacy. If you'd like to join us, you can be there, just cheer us on and be in a picture so we can spread awareness. We are also, for CASA, we're teaming up with all of the libraries in all the counties. So we'll be there maybe on the day that we do the proclamations, but hopefully it'll line up that way. We're still working that out, but we'll be putting up pinwheels that represent all the children in care. And the ones that actually have a volunteer will be represented with the ribbon around that pinwheel. So that's what we have prepared, and that's what we're doing for the month of April. When we have our April luncheon, I'm asking everyone to wear blue. Okay, wear blue because the actual date is gonna be, the Gold Blue Day would be April 5th, that Friday.
My birthday.
Really? Happy early birthday, in case I forget. But that's about it. Do y'all have any questions? Oh, actually, we will be at the Goliad County Fair on March the 16th. If anyone would like to come and cheer us on, we'd love to have you.
Is that at the parade?
At the parade.
Okay.
Yeah, normally we hang out and then walk around afterwards with our CASA shirts on, so we can have people ask us about CASA. So if you have your CASA shirt, come with us and help us get some more volunteers. We have 31 children that still need a volunteer. There was a post that went out this morning, so hopefully we have a good class that's coming up at the end of April, and that's on the 23rd. So if you know anyone, let them know that we'd love to have them. And here is Maricela. That's it.
All right.
Yes.
Is it just the same thing, decorate?
Yeah, we're gonna be on the parade.
You want to get it?
No.
Did this anything last year? Okay, so nice work.
Take it away, Diana.
Okay.
Huh?
Okay. Okay, she's gonna put the finishing touches on the meal, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my part about the children and families that we served in February. So in February, we served 150 children with 97 families. We had 117 of those children had a volunteer, and at 30, that makes 33 that didn't have a volunteer, because we did have some kids come in. Families with the volunteer was 74, and families with no volunteer was 23. We had 8 new children and 5 families come into care, and 7 children and 6 families closed in February. So yay, we found some permanents. So the reason for closing, though, I thought you might be interested in, is one child was reunified with their mother. Thank you, Amanda Wendell, for all her hard work on that particular case. One child, we had to request dismissal because the child has moved out of state and makes visits almost impossible, and we're not able to meet our Texas CASA requirements, so we step off. Luckily, that volunteer is also very bonded with that child, and they still remain in contact, not as a CASA volunteer, but more like a friend. So she still has the support of that volunteer. We had one case that transferred jurisdiction because they had siblings in care in another county. And so this child was put together with that case. We had one child adopted by a non-relative. Thank you, Marlene. She made sure it saw it through to the end and made sure it happened. We had one child that aged out. One child was placed with an aunt, and joint managing conservatorship is being shared with the aunt and the mother. So they'll together be able to take care of that child. And one child was permanently placed with a grandmother, and all parent rights are still intact. It's just maybe taking a little bit longer for the mom to get stable, and the grandma is going to be walking that path with her and taking care of that child. And thank you, Stephanie White, for making sure that child was going to be safe. So we did all this awesome work in February with 44 great volunteers. And so we could not do it without you guys here. And we really appreciate each one of you. So the new volunteers that were sworn in February were Selena Condi, Santos Villarreal, and Caitlin Yancey. And they have two of those have already chosen children to work with, and one of them is making a decision here, hopefully this week. And we have one that's continuing training, Chantel Gertie. And I know she's going to finish. So in the next training class, we have had 9 applications and have interviews already completed or already scheduled. We have 4 inquiries that are going to work on their applications. And the guided online portion of the training is going to begin with all of those in that training class as soon as all the interviews are done. Want to make sure that they have decided and made the right decision for themselves about joining and becoming a volunteer. So volunteers can join anytime in this process at any stage. So if you know anybody, you want to welcome anybody on or anything like that, we would love to have more people in the class, because that's just richer conversation. So we would love to have that. If you know anybody, have them give Darlene a call. She is ready for that. So
the most exciting news board recently is at our last meeting, we voted to hire Lynn Duenas as our executive director. It was a long process. We had a certain protocol that we needed to follow as part of our succession plan. She's done a great job as interim, and we're just so excited that finally now we do have an executive director. We are very pleased. We think there are just really great things on the horizon for CASA with Lynn as our leader. So who do we thank for the delicious food today? Who prepared the food? Charlene? And who? Thank you so much, ladies. It looks delicious. We sure appreciate it. You what? All right. Thank you. Wonderful. Yeah, Lynn was of course supposed to be here today, and she's just been really sick, and we miss her, but we appreciate that she's not spreading her bug with us also. So hopefully she'll be back in the office soon. Also, as Charlene touched on a little, we have Mother's Day brunch coming up. We have this beautiful flyer that Kelsey prepared for us, and there are several. We'll leave some on the table. If any of you guys know business in Victoria or any of our surrounding counties that might host this, take a couple with you. It's really great. Also, Stephanie Ross will be the entertainment. She performed last year and was great, and she had a conflict for this year, but really wanted to be there and made it work. And we just got word that Belong will be underwriting the entertainment. So thank you guys so much for that. We have sponsorship levels available, and different things to be underwritten. So as you're out and about, you think about businesses, or people who might be interested in sponsoring or underwriting a certain, part of our event, either let me or Regina, let anybody with CASA know, and we'll make sure it, gets followed through on. That is on May 11th. There will be a fashion show. We have a meeting this afternoon with a local boutique who is going to be coordinating the fashion show for us. So that's going to be really nice. It should be a really fun event. So if you can be there, you know, hopefully you'll join us. Or if you also, if anybody has any ideas for silent auction items, we always welcome your feedback and input. No pressure, because you guys do so much already, but just if you think of anything, let us know. Also, this past week, I guess, Friday was Staff Appreciation Day. And on behalf of the board, I just want to give a shout out to all of our wonderful staff. They are, like you, in the trenches every day. We so appreciate everything that they do, and that you do. So thank you again for that. If there's ever any, yes, a round of applause for the staff and volunteers. And also, you know, the board is accessible to you. If you have any questions, ideas, concerns, of course, there's Lynn, but you're always welcome to reach out to any board member with anything also. We want to be, you know, we are a part of the team and want to be accessible to you. So feel free to do that anytime. Again, welcome everybody. We're glad you're all here, and thank you, ladies, for lunch. Y'all enjoy.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Charmaine, West Side.
We have Monica Morones from Belong presenting on kinship caregiver training.
Good afternoon, guys. I am Monica Morones. I am the kinship supervisor for the North and the East. So I cover all the way from, my workers cover all the way from Kirk County, all the way to Lavaca County. So I just wanted to get, go through this PowerPoint to give you an idea of how you and we can partner to make sure that the kids get the maximum of what they need from both of us. You know, I always hear DFPS, Belong, and CASA. No, we're partners. It's all of us for one common goal. And that is definitely to make sure that the kids get the best experience out of being in the system. So this is typically what our caregivers will get from the kinship worker the very first visit. It's called our initial kinship visit. So we go over the legal timeline with them, you know, people they need to know about, the kinship benefits, the 3 and 30, the discipline policy, safe sleep, education, why visitation is important, frequent visitors, disaster planning, medical concern training they'll receive the very first visit or so, at verification and filing a complaint. This is just your basic timeline. Of course, we all know that that can change at any time. But of course, the 262 hearing is when the judge will tell us if, you know, we keep the case or if the case will be dismissed. And then there's various, your 60-day hearing is usually when the parents will be given their family plan of service, have already had a chance to review it and sign it, and are aware of what needs to happen for them to be reunified. Then your permanency 1 and permanency 2 hearings, those are basically like progress reports. How's everybody doing? How's the child doing in placement? So those are those 2 hearings. 10 to 12 months in, we have what we call a merits hearing. Y'all probably hear trial, which is where we want to see where that case is going to end up. Whether parents terminated, children go back home, sometimes we don't want to wait until the 12 months for children to go home, but that can happen at that hearing. And if there's excruciating circumstances, judge may grant an extension, and that will allow for additional hearings. Case participants, I'm not gonna go into each one. I'm gonna have to leave it open for questions at the end, but your kinship caregivers and the children in care are probably gonna have all of these in their life within the time that they're, you know, in the system. So of course, your primary conservator caseworker, kinship development worker, caseworker, attorney ad litem, guardian ad litem, and of course, y'all, CASA. Monthly kinship reimbursement. One thing that's very important is that this is not everybody qualifies for it. So we highly recommend that, you know, not even the primary caseworker, nor anybody but the kinship worker explain what they need to qualify or whether they will or will not qualify. Because then, you know, they'll say, well, somebody said that I qualify, and then it gets sticky there where they're, you know, they get upset because they think they already qualify because they're a kinship caregiver. But there's various things that need to happen. They have to meet a certain income requirement in order to qualify. They have to have an approved home study, and those are some of the things, and they have to complete this kinship training. And with income, they cannot exceed 300% of the federal poverty limits. So if they're telling you like, hey, we don't know what's going on with kinship, reach out to your kinship worker. I try to have my kinship workers reach out monthly if there's a cost assigned. So that way, if you have any questions about kinship services, you know, we can reach out to the family and give them all that information. Also, another part that kinship helps with, they can help with providing kinship child daycare referrals. They can make sure they get all the required documentations. You know, so if there's an issue with primary worker, you know, not getting the daycare, we can provide all the documentation for that daycare to get started. So that's something kinship can help with as well. And this is just, of course, saying what we need to request daycare from the caregivers. They would have to have a certain amount of hours every month that they have to be work, every week that they have to work in order to qualify. And there's other things that they would need. They would need to provide their last 3 paycheck stubs. If they are self-employed, a statement will suffice. And we would give them the caregiver statement of self-employment to fill out. Another important aspect that kinship helps with is assuring that the children get their 3 and 30 appointments in, to include the CANS exam, but most children have to get a 3-day medical exam within coming into care. So that's one thing that we better educate our kinship caregivers to assure that they're getting these 3 and 30 met. So here it just goes into detail. It goes into detail on what the 3 and 30 is. And so, of course, within 3 business days, they get an initial medical exam, the CANS assessment within 30 days. What the CANS assessment helps is it develops a plan on what are the needs of the child. So that way, those things can be put into the child plan to assure that the caregivers, you know, meet those needs. So it's very specific to a child. And then, of course, you know, your Texas Health steps medical checkup within 30 days. That's what the 3 and 30 comes down to. What is appropriate and what is not. This we go into detail with the kinship caregiver. Not only do they go through this training, but they also have to sign the discipline policy that they know what is and is not allowed. So the policy is basically no physical discipline of any sort is allowed. Also things like, threatening them with placement is another one that is not allowed. Holding, things such as food and stuff like that is not appropriate discipline. The form that they actually fill out goes like into very much detail as to what cannot happen when kids are in the care of the state. These are just some safety, never leave a child alone in the bathtub, around water, lakes, rivers and pools, guns, I mean, we all, kinship as well as the primary caseworker, they do check for this. They should be checking for this every month. And then medication, make sure it's out of a child's reach, and of course, co-sleeping with the child. All these things are addressed, and they are followed up on every month by a kinship worker. This is just, I'm going over safe sleep, of course, not for babies to sleep alone, on their backs in a crib. And then keep babies away from secondhand smoke, and dress babies lightly and control the room temperature. Other don'ts of safe sleep is, if they're in a crib, nothing in there except for the sheet that covers the mattress. If they say, well, the baby's cold, put a blanket, put another layer of clothes on the child. And of course, that means don't cover the baby's face. If there's nothing in there, there's nothing to cover the child's face. Don't allow them to sleep with older kids. Don't sleep with the baby. Make sure they're in a safe place to sleep. No chairs, sofas, futons, bean bags, or cushions. And don't put them to sleep on soft beds, such as pillow tops, water beds, memory foam. And of course, don't expose babies to smoke. Then we tell them what are their caregiver responsibilities towards the child's education. Enter the child into a public school within 2 days of placement. Make sure that the school district foster care liaison is notified, because they get certain things with that, a free breakfast across the board. They don't go off their income, or they won't ask for the caregiver's income to qualify them for that. And of course, the regional education specialist serves as a resource for caregivers and school staff. This is more about education. They go off the child's income, which of course is 0 and not the family's income. Children age 3, 4, and 5 in care are eligible for free pre-kindergarten programs offered at local public schools. Education portfolios, they are every child school age should have a green binder that basically all their educational things will go in there. Every progress report should be in there. It should have all their report cards in there. Any testing they've had at school, everything should be in this folder, and it follows the child from placement to placement. The importance of maintaining the parent-child relationship. I'm sure y'all been in various homes where you have your caregivers who are all about maintaining that relationship, and then you have some that don't think it should exist. So we have to explain the importance of that to our caregivers, because of course, a majority of the time there are court-ordered visits. So, like I said, visitation is a right and not a privilege. Visitation helps honor the child's family, their connections, culture, and customs. And visitation helps grow the relationship with the child and the parent. What to expect? A visitation schedule. They should be giving every caregiver a visitation schedule that should be detailed as to what items are allowed for the parents to take to the visits. It should detail times and dates, and so that way there are no surprises. In some extreme circumstances, if parents do not show up to various, and it's affecting the child's, state of mind, then of course they may ask a parent to arrive by a certain time before they even take the child to a visit. And then from children, this is a big one. We always hear that after a child, sometimes when a child comes back from visits, that their behaviors escalate. That's normal. you know, that it brings them back to, you know, various experiences with parents. It may be their way to show grieving and loss of not living with that parent. So if they don't have behaviors, I would be concerned, and if they have some behaviors, that's normal. What to expect from the parents: hesitation about attending visits, resentment towards the relative caregivers or kinship caregivers, fear, anger, sadness, and of course, gratitude for seeing their children. This is how the caregivers can help the child prepare for parent-child visits. Of course, talking to them on what to expect, tell them to respect biological parents, maintain contact with the caseworker about the behaviors, even though we know most of them are going to be normal. And then model healthy parent-child interaction, provide children with emotional support, and inform parents of the child's routines. Of course, this is a continue to provide transportation to and from visits. Also know that kinship workers can assist with transporting the child. If the child is not comfortable with strangers, we're more than welcome to transport the relative caregivers with the child. So that should never be a barrier to visits. Like I said, kinship is there to help in any way with those type of things. And of course, the caregiver should refrain from giving opinion of the visitation in front of the children, discuss concerns with the caseworker privately, and then prepare the child to transition back to and until the next visit. Sibling visits. When siblings are not together, you know, we should, and they should be happening. And if they're not happening, there needs to be a conversation why. Siblings should be seeing each other. If distance is an issue, there's so many type of ways they can visit, whether it be on the phone, whether it's FaceTiming. Siblings, especially if they were taken from the same home and separated, they should be having contact. If they're not, then definitely feel free to reach out to the primary worker and ask questions of why. Siblings grieve their siblings as much as they grieve their parents when they are taken into care. Stages of supervision. Of course, you've seen where they have, they start usually with supervised visitations by somebody designated, whether it be belong, whether it be DFPS, whether it be a caregiver, if they're comfortable enough to supervise the visits. And then as the parents progress in their family plan of service, they will lower the restrictions that lead up to, of course, reunification, day passes, then they can go to overnights, and so it's a progressive. If a parent is not increasing visits, then more than likely it's gonna be harder for them to transition to a full reunification. The minute a parent is meeting the goals, and what's important to know is goals don't mean the checklist of the family plan. It means I've seen cases where a parent has done no services, but has been drug-free through hair follicles and everything, the whole case. So to me, that's success, right? Because the reason for removal was drugs. So those are things to be mindful of. Is they might not finish everything on that family plan, but if the reason the child came into care is minimized, then we should be progressing to less restrictive visitation. Frequent visitors, very important. CASA, y'all are out there just like kinship is out there. If you notice somebody that is in the home every time, let belong know, let DFPS know, because we need to know who they are and make sure that their background has been run. Make sure they're safe to be around the child. Okay. And basically a frequent visitor is anyone who comes to the home more than once a month or spends the night or may watch the child. They need to know who they are, and of course run background checks to make sure that our kids are safe around everybody who's in that home. This just goes into more detail on how to identify a frequent visitor. I would just blanket it. If you see them and you're going out every month and every time CASA goes out, they are there, ask the questions. Because sometimes, remember, they view CASA different than they do the primary worker as the kinship worker. So they may never have that person there when kinship worker is there, but they may not feel uncomfortable having that person there every month when CASA is there, because they're like, okay, well, CASA's not the caseworker, right? But we all work collaboratively to make sure that the child's safe. So if you notice that person there every month, just let somebody know who else is the caseworker. We do have an emergency plan that we have them fill out, and this came very handy during the snowstorm. During the snowstorm, when that happened, we had to make sure we called every one of our caregivers to see if they had to relocate, where they were located, and making sure they were safe. And so we update this every, how often? About every 6 months. We just go over the same disaster plan, make sure nothing's changed, because people move, people change numbers, and so we just want to make sure in the event of an emergency, we know who we're calling for our children. Trainings that your kinship caregivers will have to take is medical consent training, trauma-informed care training, and psychotropic medication training. Foster home verification. One of the things that is our main goal for whatever your outcome in the case is to get our families licensed. There's so many benefits as to they gain a case manager with the child placing agency. Of course, the funds are almost double what they would get if they qualify for kinship benefits. And there's a lot of other resources that the child placing agency can provide to the family. So every month that kinship is in there, we are asking them, hey, are we working towards licensing? Kinship helps so much and provides so much resources for them to get licensed. What sometimes is a barrier, I mean, CASA comes to the table, child welfare boards come to the table, we come to the table. A couple of months ago, we had a family. The only reason they could not get licensed was their floor needed to be completely replaced. And we know how expensive a floor can be. It was concrete. They needed, of course, everything for that. It was roughly about $1,500. CASA offered a certain amount of money. Child welfare offered a certain amount of money, and then Belong put the rest. So that's how, when you hear that there's barriers, reach out to kinship, reach out to the primary worker, because I guarantee you we can work it out so these families can get licensed. I've worked for Bexar County. I did Bexar County for 13 years. And there was always a lot of barriers, and families don't want to go there because they say, I can't afford it, or I can't. We provide the fire extinguishers, the medication lock boxes, anything that a family needs to get licensed. We have various kinship grants available to make sure that happens. There should not be a barrier as far as what the home needs in order to pass to become a licensed home. Things to consider. These are just some of the things they should consider when getting licensed. Of course, they'll have to get CPR certified, TB tests. We actually do help fund the cost of those type of things that, in the past did not get covered. So, and a lot of these things also the child placing agency they decide to go through also will help fund some of these things. So there really should not be much barriers financially for a home to get licensed with kinship in the mix. And we have awesome directors who help get whatever is needed for these homes to get licensed. Again, this talks about the expensive. I think we pay for pet vaccinations. Pretty much anything you see here can get and will get covered for them to get licensed. So this should never be a barrier. Any of these things, we've covered all of these since we went live. And sometimes it's Belong, sometimes it's the community, sometimes it's the child placement agency, but all these things should not be a financial barrier to get licensed. These are some of the things that we tell them from the get-go, start collecting, because these are all things that the family will need. There are some of these things that can get waivers on. So let's just say somebody, let me give you an example. We had a caregiver who got their education in Mexico. They couldn't get that documentation. So instead of having that a barrier, they let them take a competency test to show that they were educated to the extent of a high school diploma. And they will consider waivers for certain things. We have helped people get marriage licenses, divorce decrees. So, but these are just things that people need to know that they need to start looking for when they're gonna have a CPA come out, because all these items will be required for them to get licensed. Some of the benefits, like I explained, are of course, increased monthly financial support, contingency plan for reunification, smoother transition, for adoption, eligibility criteria for permanency care assistance, additional support system, they maintain their cultural heritage, and kinship placements, which decreases this proportionality. One thing that's important is sometimes relatives will say, well, they're going back home, right? I'm not gonna get licensed. Well, what if mom or dad, what if they relapse? If they're licensed, then they can come back. I mean, even if they're not licensed, they can come right back. But I'm trying to get in the habit of letting caregivers know that the purpose of licensing is not only for adoption. It's to sustain a placement in the meantime. So if they are licensed, they get that income, and fine, the kids go home. But guess what? If the kids come back within a year, that home can remain licensed and they don't have to go through the process all over again. So that's our goal of kinship, is getting that mentality out to everybody, is you don't get licensed only if the case is going to termination. Let's get licensed, because guess what? Maybe mom gets it halfway together, right? And we do PMC. Well, there's something called PMC with PCA, where you get all the benefits of adoption if the home is licensed without the termination of parental rights. So that's the best of both worlds in a case, because the parents' rights are not terminated. They maintain that relationship with their parents, but they have all the benefits of being adopted. Case information or complaints. Like I said, if y'all ever have to complain, the child or the relative say, hey, this caseworker did that, you can reach the DFPS. There also is one, and I will make sure to get it to Charlene. There is also a complaint number for belong staff. In the event, what I would recommend is, if you ever have a problem, reach out to supervisors, guys. We're very attentive. I am always available. Since y'all are from here, both of my staff here, I have 2 kinship workers here who cover any kinship homes, all the way from Nixon, all the way to Lavaca. So if y'all ever have an issue, y'all ever need clarification, or my workers don't have the answers, I am actually gonna leave some business cards for y'all, and y'all feel free to reach out, guys. I mean, there's no dumb questions. We'll be happy to answer any questions. If we don't have the answer, we can get that answer for you. And now, I am open, and if I don't have the answer, I'm gonna give you my card, and I'm gonna get your number, and I will get you the answer. Yes. Child's assessment needs and strengths. And so basically, it's almost, they see somebody who is certified for a CANS, and they see what are the child's strengths, what are their needs, and then they send it like in a report wise. Like, you know how you've seen a psychological, it's a different type of assessment. The CANS for any child over 3, they should have a CANS completed within 30 days of coming into care, whether they are in a relative's care or whether they are in a paid placement, because that helps develop their child plan of service. So their child plan of service will be specific to their needs. And you know, because y'all are able to see the child plan of service. It shouldn't be cookie cutter. It should be specified to that child's behaviors, specific to that child's needs, the needs of supervision. Everything should be based off the CANS, and of course, meeting with the parents. So because the parents do what's called an FSNA, Family Strengths Needs and Assessment. And so those 2 collaborating, make sure that not only does the child get everything they need, but also the parents get whatever they need. So, yeah. You know, I don't think it will come out like the results. Yeah, sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. But if you need to review it, reach out to your primary caseworker. But I can tell you, whatever is in there, when they generate the child plan of service, all those needs from the cans will be reflected in the child plan of service. What is it? Look it up. We're gonna find out for you right now. We're gonna find out for you. Any other questions? Yeah, we're gonna find out for you right now. Any permanency workers here from Belong? No. Katie's gonna try to find that out for you. Any other questions? Like I said, I am gonna leave my business card for whoever wants to get it. Like I said, I do ask my workers to use y'all as collaterals. If we know that a CASA is assigned to one of our kids, what we usually do is we ask our kinship worker to reach out to y'all on a monthly basis after seeing or before seeing the home, seeing if you have any concerns, if you have an update on what's going on. Because remember, these kids could have different relationships with different people that go into the home. They could be comfortable with the CASA worker versus the worker, right? So you may know something that could help us meet the needs better for the child in the home or to meet the needs of the caregiver in the home. Like I said, one thing that's very new and different from DFPS is we do have a lot of additional funding right now to help families for all kinds of needs. We have a behavioral grant right now where we have a lot of money to assist with weighted blankets, any art product for kids with behaviors, art supplies, equine therapy. We have two places who are providing our equine therapy. Our grant was able to fund 2 additional mobile case aides who are transporters who are solely responsible for transporting our kids to equine therapy. We also can provide fidget toys, sets. We can provide what do you call the things to sleep? The noise reduction systems? Noise reduction systems for our kids. We can provide sensory items. We can provide, so you know, a lot of times the helmets are not covered under Medicaid. Well, our grant covers helmets. Our grants can cover, sometimes, you know, some of our kids need the diabetic system that goes on their arm. Yes, and Medicaid won't cover that. Our behavioral grant can cover that as well. Anything that Medicaid doesn't cover, our behavioral grant more than likely will cover. We also have, if a family is in need and we can just show that need, we also have a grant that will help them where we can help the family with up to $1,000 check for whatever need is there. There also is, if they're able to purchase things out of pocket towards licensing, we can reimburse them up to $750 back on that, as long as they provide to us in receipts. I can tell you guys, partner with the kinship workers, because if you go into a home and you see that a child is lacking something, they should not be lacking. Reach out to kinship. I can tell you my kinship workers are great and resourceful, along with our regional director back there. If we can't find it locally, then she will find it somewhere. Definitely, like I said, our kids should not be suffering and going without. And I'm glad that we were able to talk to y'all, because I want y'all to know that we are partners in this. We have the same goal. We have the same interest of the child. And if there's anything that y'all need from us, like I said, just let us know. As for the cans,
Or they're gonna be somewhere else.
if they are moved, it just has to know.
Okay, so it's just-
The other thing too, you're like, oh, that's great. Especially here.
So my unit has recently hired a mobile case aide, which we already have one. So Kinship can provide transportation to many things. Katie, last month took a family to where? To Corpus for a doctor's appointment. Caregiver and whoever else had to go. She rented a vehicle and she took them out there. The mobile case aides are only going to be doing things that have to do with this behavioral grant I'm talking about. So I believe the closest equine therapy is in Charlotte, right? So right now we do have two that we are allowed to send our children to, and that one is in Floresville and one is in Charlotte. And like I said, we do provide transportation. I mean, we'll take the caregiver along with us, not a problem. Anything else? Like I said, if you have a child, it doesn't matter the age, they suffer from any type of behaviors, and you think they would benefit from weighted blankets, art kits, sensory toys, any of that, reach out to your kinship worker. All they do is go on Amazon, send it up, and it's ordered and delivered to the caregiver's house. Any other questions?
So, you have a child.
We can provide transportation. Actually, like I said, my workers will help with transportation, but we also have a mobile case aide within our unit that their sole job is to transport.
We just need enough time. So if you know ahead of time, just let us know.
Anybody else? Like I said, if you can't think of any questions right now, guys, like I said, I'm gonna leave you my business card. You can reach out to me or any of my kinship workers. And that's just information. That's what the parents get when kids come into care. And we do have kinship forms for our kinship caregivers. If they need that additional support, if that other little pamphlet she gave. Anything else? I'm gonna leave my cards right there on the blue thing, so y'all can get those on the way out. Thank you.
Well, I think that gives us a much better understanding about kinship and resources that are available. And if you're visiting at your kinship home and you think, I wonder, we'll have that card. Charlene will have that information. You will be able to help you reach out and find out, I wonder if this would help, and make sure that we're all working together to make sure the child is well cared for.